all meetings have been Zoom. This is the first time everybody. So they had a national meeting in San Diego. There were almost 10,000 surgeons live. Incredible. But I had meetings about half the day Saturday, all day Sunday. I had Monday, Tuesday. Actually go to some of the meetings, go see some informational educational meetings. They did 5 of our research out there. So I got to go see them. Actually, one of several of our former trainees, one of Lewis, Michigan, and all over. And walked around. So it's pretty cool. So I regular. Revisited to see people's faces, actually talk to people. But it was
yeah, well, it's complicated because like if you go, so if you buy something or you it still has to go and check your bag once you get to the US to go on your next flight. Right,
It's only see his lovely face with this thing on.
You can't go to your carry-on because it's too much for them. Because some poor guy bought something that was all sealed in this bag, so you couldn't see what it was. Could not carry it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, so you can do it.
even though I was busy in the morning, it was nice. I get up in the morning.
You can put it back on your check bag. You can really put it in your check bag. Yeah, well, I mean, you should, because when you come to the US, you have to get your check bag and you put it in your check bag. So, well, he called. That's how people do it. No, once you go to the US, when you come into the US, you have to get your luggage and recheck it back here.
Oh, that's fine.
You can put it in your you have to go through security and everything all over again. Yeah.
I'll hop an Uber, go over, load. Just went to set.
Unless you go to
We all went out for
in
dinner.
this case, you don't have to get your check back again.
Do you do the same thing? Did you pay that?
Yeah. I've built it. Recheck all the time.
It's busy.
Depends on the airport. If you're at work, you still have to take your damn phone out. You still have to take your laptop out of your bag. It's like all the things that you like you have pre-check for, you still have to do. It's like why? Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get started for the community development meeting. It's 7 o'clock. Didn't mean to startle anybody. I think everybody should have a copy of what was worked on so far by the residents and by this committee. First of all, I'll open up. Are there any comments? Has anybody read it over? It was originally designed as a start, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And we kind of want to get everybody's input to this because it affects so many different areas of our city. And so forth. It goes into why we need a master plan. And some of the people have researched and found out we're one of the few communities in Lake County at least that does not have a master plan of any type. And I think it would be beneficial to the city going forward to have one. Even if it won't affect the properties that got everybody stirred up, it can affect the properties as they sit today. I mean, I made a comment a long time ago that they tear buildings down all the time and rebuild buildings. That's obvious by the medical building across the street from Lake West. They tore that down recently, and I think they're planning on putting another building. I hope be silly to tear it down without any plans to go forward. Are there any comments about this document?
I would say there was a lot of thought put into this, and I appreciate the work that's gone into this. There's a lot of good ideas and, I hope we can execute on all of this. My other thing would be with the involvement that we have and an outline like this, the other parts of this, we still feel like we need an envision group or a HANA group to execute this for us, or to pay them to get involved with this. That would be my question.
Mr. Schick.
Just a point of process before the mayor gets his answers from you guys. Is this a general discussion back and forth?
It is.
Question, answer, no rules of.
It is a general conversation.
Okay, good, because I'll wait for what you have to say to the mayor and I want to go my thought.
He's asking for your opinion.
I didn't know whether I wanted to let the council go first.
Des, do you have an opinion on the mayor's comment?
I would rather hear from.
Mr.
residents
Schick?
first, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna throw my 2 cents out first, okay?
Please do.
My 2 cents is, I think this is a good start to something that could generate things and possibly, if we go forward and hire a company like Envision or HANA, reduce the amount of work they have to do. We've actually minimized some of the work. Can this work go forward and do exactly what they can do for us? I don't know. I don't have the expertise that some of these people have that went into this. Does that make sense? So I want to keep our options open. Mr. Bittner.
So my question would be, would this even be something they would accept? Or would they want to come in and develop their own plan? Because if they say, hey, you guys have this plan, we're going to execute it for you, but if it fails, where's the liability of that plan? I don't know. This is
I don't either.
new. Are they going to come in and say, yeah, we'll take your plan? You guys did what research to get it, or where we're going to come in and do from the ground up?
We're still in the process, so.
Right, I don't, this is a
Mr.
question.
Schick, you had a comment?
I'll back up before envisioning even. And comment on the HANA group, which had some very good skills related to a piece of what a good master plan has. And that is sale of commercial properties. And they could do that. And then we saw Envision. And to me, there was orders of magnitude difference in capacity, in experience, in levels of work at all levels of government, not just in commercial sales of property. And so I saw Envision as really valuable, as a great asset, but I wouldn't have let them come to work for me. If I owned the city, I would give them a document like this and more and ask them to flesh it out with the rest of the community. So I don't see that we're eliminating an Envision type group. On a practical perspective, I could see Envision or 5 or 6 other people coming in and them responding to this and saying, how can we add to, what can we think about them? In my view, what you've got there, Paul, is how the city wants to say, we want to start someone here, help us go forward.
And I would concur with that. Yeah, that's why I said this is a start. Scott.
I think one of the key things you said, Paul, and the word you used was expertise.
Mhm.
We are all people who all have different jobs. You are our leadership for the community. We can be active participants in decision-making and hopefully constructing a plan that is something that everybody can work with and live with and be happy with. But none of us are experts in city planning and developing these kinds of things. So I do think that ultimately, yes, it will be necessary to involve some sort of an outside group to answer what David mentioned. And to Kevin's comment, and I think also to Jeff's comment, I think realistically, presenting them with a framework of what we've discussed is, I think, a perfectly logical, starting point. It will eliminate hopefully some background work. It gives them at least some perspective of what people are interested in. But then, as Jeff said, we need their expertise then to flesh it out, because we can provide so much piece to the puzzle, but for all the individual components of these people, this is what they do. This is their job. We have jobs, they have a job. We can work together, and I think we have to work together with them. But I think it is going to require outside expertise ultimately.
And time, they have the brains and some muscle. You all, this is part-time work for you. Dave, this is part-time work for him. And Holly doesn't have the time in her world to be able to do this work.
And they have all the networking capabilities that we don't.
Right.
And at the most, we're meeting once every couple weeks. And I feel bad, I haven't been here for the last couple months. I've had at least some contact with Jeff and people intermittently, and I've had a chance to talk to Kevin a couple times on the phone, but it's been limited and it's challenging. So you're absolutely right, Desiree. They have the time, that is their job. So if we employ them to do such, that's what we expect to get as a product.
And I think this serves as a good groundwork to start.
I guess where I'm coming from on this is, I do think there is a place for a company like that. I think the more we can provide and support them, and the more we can do as a community and to get things done, the less we have to pay them to do that piece.
That's kind of my point.
And so it's almost like, it's like hiring an attorney. The more we do the research, the more we come up with ideas and drafts, the more we give them options, the more we do that, the less they ring up an attorney's fees. But if they don't, we don't give them a starting point and guardrails as to what we want to do, then it becomes an open checkbook, and I don't think we want that either. I think we really want to try to figure out what is it we want from them. How big of a master plan do we want? I mean, I've got different cities, some of them are huge and some of them are, I mean, this is Painesville downtown and it's a simple 20 pages. And then you can get Bay Village, which is 5,000 pages. I mean, at what point is the right level? So, I mean, I do want their expertise, but I want it at the right bang for the buck is what I'm looking for. From my
Especially
perspective.
considering our financial situation in our city. The bigger bang for the buck, as you said, Earl, the better off we are. So, and it's not meant to circumvent them or change them or accept liability or any of that, because, yeah, they could take this and say, yeah, we don't like it. Okay, what don't you like? Tell us,
Right, so we can go back to the drawing board and give them something else
and include it.
and include it, right?
Well, the other point that was made is, I believe it was the Envision Group that mentioned about getting a hold of the businesses in the city and the residents and so forth. As we found out, and Mary, you can attest this too, getting people to get involved in our city government or any part of it is tough. It's like people want to stick their head in their sand when they come in home from work and eat dinner and watch TV and that's it. Except taking kids out for trick or treat last week. The streets were full of people. He said, we're mighty. So we did advertise on Facebook that we wanted more resident input and we didn't get anybody. I don't know whether people don't care or they assume, well, we get paid the big bucks, so let it up. It's all up to us. So.
Kevin's like, where is it?
Yeah, where's I was tricked.
Oh, you were excited, trying to get residents involved in our city government. And back to the mayor, you know what that's like. You can't find people to volunteer for anything. It's like that is going. Susan.
Well, kind of segueing on what everybody else was talking about, I mean, identifying the scope of work for these people and doing as much advanced work as we can limits how much they have to do, but we also have to give them the scope of work of what we want them to do. They sort of gave council the whole big picture of scope of everything they can do. We don't necessarily need all of that.
Right.
And some of those things were community focus groups and getting the business, they're used to bigger towns.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that we don't need all those things. So I think when you get down to it, what we have, right, what everybody's put together over here is pretty general and pretty standard and all the right buzzwords and processes. So I don't think they're going to be scared off by it or anything. They may want to fine tune it, but I think you can have them come in and sort of get more specific on scope and cost so that you can say, okay, where we think our resources make sense with the limited amount that we have would be to try to focus on these few things that might give us a return on investment very quickly. Maybe by them helping trying to find grants or other ways, something that you can't afford by just time, labor versus true physical costs.
And I do want to back up on my statement about getting residents to volunteer. If this group hadn't volunteered, we'd still be looking at Envision or Hannah Group to do everything for us. And I don't know about the rest of council, but I don't like going into something like this, not knowing what to expect or what should happen.
Like said, I've seen.
Right. So this gives us to me, it gives me a vision of where we should be at, what we should be doing. And even like, at one of our meetings, I brought up about the park, which Dan Welker addressed too, about the pier. And President Johnson said he'd like to see that park included in this master plan. And I agree. It should be all of our resources that we have in Mentor on the Lake, limited or not, included in that. Okay. So where do we go from here? Thoughts? Is this a point at which we want to turn this over to a company, or do we want to continue working on it? Do we want to try to encourage residents to come down to our next meetings and have input into this? And then ultimately, it would be encourage businesses to come down and have input into this. Jeff?
I'll go back a little bit in time and ask the mayor a question. When you had the community event at the parks,
Fall festival?
the fall festival, what were the tools you used to get the community aware that that was a possibility to happen that day, that schedule? What did you use to do that?
We advertised, on our pages, but really go back to, because we didn't have it for a couple of years, that went back to the vendors and sponsors that we've had all along.
And when you say we, does that mean it
That-
was you and
That would
Holly
be Holly and staff,
and the team just ran around and did that stuff?
right?
So what we've said to Paul sometimes, I'm kind of semi-retired, not completely retired, but I can be a legwork. I can do some of that stuff if you think that's right, because I don't think we want to go much further than the next meeting or two without having 5 or 6 businesses sitting here. They're who we're really after. And, and having their words into this document will help the recruitment of new businesses all the time.
I know from history, the mayor has had several, at least 2 business meetings with the different businesses within our city. The first one I attended was pretty well attended by our businesses. The second one, not so much.
Sometimes it takes a lot of legwork though.
Yeah,
What was the topic? What was the purpose of it?
what can Mayor,
But it was, really, it started out with, we reach out to them for, let's say, Giant. Hey, we're having a lighting contest. We have gifts, gift cards to give us. So this was more, not what can you do for me, what can I do for you? Okay, you're running your business. What do you need from us? And as Paul said, the first one, well attended. The second one, maybe 5 businesses, but it was more of not so much what could we do for you, but where we kind of as a city were falling short, and it was more complaining than anything, I would say. It wasn't very productive, and it was nice. I think the first time we gave them probably a good 6-week notice that we're going to do this during the day, and it was late in the afternoon. So, if you were from McDonald's or something, business wasn't that, busy. And it was more, they got to meet the different business owners, which was good. And then, what are we doing? What can we do better? What are we doing well? And that's about what the first one was. The second one, not so much.
like you said, Mayor, it turned into more of a complete session.
Right.
I would hope that if we approach businesses with the concept that, we as a city are one of the few areas, as you mentioned, Paul, in Lake County, that do not have a master plan for the vision of what the city is now and what we hope it to continue to progress, be, and become. That if we approach them with that kind of a concept, I would hope that they would have enough foresight to think that they are critical to the infrastructure of the city, both monetarily, employment, and as, city representatives, city leaders, essentially, everyone who, is in the town will go to these various places over time, either for lunch, dinner, shopping, banking, whatever it be, that hopefully they would, maybe try to buy into that kind of concept. So maybe it's a matter of pitching it in the right voice for why we want them here. And that we pitch it that it's a concept that it involves citizens, leadership, local businesses, and hopefully then potential future investment into the city. And maybe they would then, kind of see that as a positive stride, and hopefully it would encourage more people to come. So sometimes maybe just pitching it in the right voice too. And if you haven't done it in a while, maybe it's the right time.
It might be just the topic.
As you were talking, I thought to myself, well, if it's comes from mayor's office, that's a message, comes from council, that's a message, but if it comes from another business. And if each of you identify businesses in this community that you frequent and they know you, and they businesses that you frequent and they know you, and then let some of us go to those businesses, hey, we talked to the mayor, he talked about you. We talked to council, they talked about you. Would you help us recruit your peers in your businesses? Would you sign a letter that says we want to come to a planning session? Let it be the businesses recruiting the businesses rather than any of us or any of you.
Jeff, on that note, I found out a long time ago, even though we don't have a Commerce, Chamber of Commerce, they have their own little communication web throughout our businesses. Sure. Because when I was doing while I was doing the car show with Dan Khalil, Stone Biggie, I told him I was having a heck of a time getting any of our businesses to pay attention because we bring thousands of people into the city. It wasn't but an hour, and I got a call from Joe Jaros, who owns Marcos, and I got a call from a few other businesses. So they talk amongst themselves.
So we should do that.
Yes, we've got to find the right person that's
Or
involved.
persons, it doesn't have to be one.
Well, you gotta, if you can drop the bomb, so to speak, with one and let them communicate. Right. But whether it comes from council or the mayor or another business, as long as we let them know this is what we're doing. And it could turn into the same thing you did before there. What can we do to help you? Is this a vessel that can help them by helping shape the future of our city?
Well, I don't know one business person that I've ever met in any city I've ever been to who wouldn't take up on the idea that you brought up to me, Dave, on the phone. When you said, we're looking at the concept of, can we have uniform lighting up and down this street? Just to make it, have a visual appearance of everything look better. There isn't a business person that would say, oh, that idea sucks. No, they don't say that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So finding something that's a piece of bait. So I think the bait of a plan that says we're gonna have uniformity in some things we're doing. We're gonna have coordination and cooperation. That'll bring the business together.
Dave,
Yeah, I think all of that ties into the very first instances that you talked about, where we need to go forward, what are the next steps, how does this get presented to Envision? Envision's going to be more intrigued if they have, boy, hey, some of these people are interested, and it's not just a single entity. It's not just the city. Totally. Companies are involved, citizens are involved, and leadership's involved. If the commercial aspects say, oh, hey, this is kind of going forward, and there's these other contributors, yeah, we should probably have some representation there because this sounds like something that's going to move forward. And of course, there's blessings from you, Mayor, and from council that says, hey, we're going to support this concept. That helps getting back to the very first point of fleshing it out a little better, putting in some guardrails. Yes, I want to go buy this van from you, Vision, but I need a van and I need cup holders and I need this. I don't want a four-wheel big high lift truck kind of thing. I need a van, but kind of in this ballpark. Then they can spend their time and effort on delivering a product, which now all of a sudden the commercial people have been involved with, citizens have been involved with, council and administration has been involved with. Gee, golly whiz, people are buying into it, so it has greater acceptance and fewer enemies. So the next steps, I think you bring in commercial, you bring in hopefully some of the citizens here can constantly participate. and they see that there's a coalescence of energy and coalescence of ideas and focus and narrowings, and guardrails, then they can deliver probably a product that everybody kind of likes and few people are objectionable to. So that would be a suggestion, yeah, forward, start getting approval from the administration and council is a good idea. That's the first area of support, pillar, commercial and citizenry, and you can go kind of those.
Thoughts from my fellow council? Michelle?
This is a process where we do need input from,
I'm sorry, Michelle, I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. This is a process where we do need input from everybody, because it's not all about a piece of property or a certain specific overload. We have lots and lots of, between City Hall and Burn Drive, we have lots and lots of vacant property. They're all business property. We need the input of the businesses as to how is your business doing? Is it doing okay? Is it not doing okay? What do you think would make your business better? I remember when you had that first meeting and there were lots of businesses in here and they all talked big game and they all, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And when it came down to action, it fizzled out very, very quickly, which is disappointing because I would think as a business owner, if you had the city coming to you and saying, what do you want? What do you need? We want you to be successful here. We want you to stay here. And you not take that seriously, it's troublesome. As a resident, as a council representative, I think trying one of those meetings is a way to go, you know. We have new people, new faces, everything like that. And a master plan isn't anything if we can't get the businesses to buy in and participate either. Whether it be, hey, you know, we're coming up with this plan and through this plan, we think it'll help promote your business in this way or that way, or whatever the case may be. They're a big part of this. So I think setting up and having some conversations with all types of people from our community is what we need to do before we say, let's go spend $50,000 to hire a vision group. Because if we don't have the people that want to be involved, I'm not wasting $50,000 in taxpayer money if nobody's gonna follow through.
That's right.
So I want a well-educated, well-based decision when we make this.
Yes,
So
thank you, Michelle.
I just had a first question. Do you know if Mentor Chamber of Commerce allows Mentor Lake businesses to be
Absolutely,
part of
yes,
them?
yes, oh, yeah,
Right, so they're,
because, when they opened Master Pizza, if you remember,
yes, oh,
they were
yes, I
there.
was there,
and then when,
the library.
the library, and then when Tegan opened his, they were there also. Yeah, oh, they're more than willing to accept, and, Anderson's too,
Yes.
if you remember.
Yeah.
Onyx, I think
They
they
were
were too.
Who's that?
Onyx.
Yes, right,
Yeah.
right.
So I mean,
Go ahead, Des.
being part, having these business owners in our community, having them to have that ability to be a part of the Chamber of Commerce community is a really great thing as well, because that's your buzzwords in there to speaking to other business owners to say, hey, Mentor Lake is doing this. Mentor Lake, they're getting a vision statement, they're getting their community together, they want to draw in more businesses. And that is, in my opinion, a very good asset to have for our owners of the, you know, the business owners. But I agree with what everybody has said, you know, put the guardrails up, put the bumpers up, you know, let's zip this up and they, you know, show it to Envision and say, okay, how did we hit? What are our marks on this? What do you think that we need to tighten up? What do you think that we're too tight on? You know, give us some direction. So I think this is a great tool to start with. And I would just like to see it continued and maybe we let these business owners know if they don't know that they can become a part of the Mentor Chamber of Commerce as well.
We will take it. Thank you. Kelly?
I personally like the idea of a business meeting. as you all know, there's many new businesses in Mineral Lake. Why? Why did you choose Mineral Lake? What drew you here? You know, maybe these new businesses don't produce like the old ones did. Hopefully there's newer, want to keep furthering. So I think that meeting would be a plus for us.
Stan?
I don't know, you might have answered the question that I had, as you were talking about businesses and having businesses here. Normally, everybody belongs to something, and usually, I gotta believe that business people belong to an organization, maybe the Chamber of Commerce. If you would get to the leadership of whatever organization, these businesses that are in the area, and get their input on what they think, because a business leader has to take care of his membership and what their demands are. Did you go individually to these separate businesses, or did you go to an organization leader that represented these businesses and get his or her insight on how business people think and what are they looking for? Did you or did you?
No, I did not.
And is
We
there
haven't
such a thing? I'm not a businessman, but,
We haven't approached the businesses yet at all.
okay.
That I think is the next step. A second. Okay, because we did try to reach out to the residents, and that was a total failure, as far as except for our group.
But even if you started with just a couple of questions to a business leader and say, this is what we're contemplating.
We can start by reaching out to the Mineral Chamber of Commerce to find out how many Mineral Lake businesses are involved in their organization. That's where I think we can start.
Yeah.
I'll come back to you, Michelle.
Hold that thought. I will short yourself with this manner. You have the franchisees at different locations within Lake County. The county chamber of commerce.
Okay, could do that. I want to finish getting council's thoughts on this. Dave, I'll come back to you, Rob.
You know, we've all come up with these great, we need to put this in writing or something so that we can spread it out to the businesses. And that's something that would interest them so that we could follow up on, even if we follow up personally. Like, because I think we all have the right ideas, but I think we need to put it in writing and pass it out to them. And then, like I said, maybe contact us if you're interested. We will be contacting you, something like that. I think that's our next step.
Almost like a sales brochure or flyer type.
Right,
so that
you
they
need
can read
something
it
to get in the door.
That you can leave with them and it entices them to come.
And invite others.
What?
And invite others.
Right, and invite others to come.
Mr. President. Last but definitely not least.
Well, I definitely agree that we need to have the businesses engaged in this. I also think that a group like Envision can help us direct that and bring them into, these ideas. And I think Envision can also help us in terms of what are we not thinking about in terms of what we've got already put together. Are there ideas and thoughts, what's worked and what hasn't worked in the communities that they've worked with? Because they have a vast experience of doing these things where we don't. And they can give us that feedback in terms of, we really think you should focus on this, and we can go, yeah, maybe we do, this is where we think we should focus. And they can say, well, this is why you start here and you do this. And this is how we've gotten businesses engaged in this process. And previously, this is how we got residents involved, where we're not getting them involved other than the ones that are already here. How can we do better with those things?
Okay. Now, I'm going to make an observation. I've noticed everybody on council here is referred to Envision rather than Envision or Hannaford. I think we were set with the task of deciding which group we would like to go with. I have contacted the American Planners Association twice by phone and by mail, got zero response, even though that was recommended as a source of other groups that do this. So I guess what I'm asking is, do we want to recommend to council as a whole that we hire Envision eventually. Is that what we're doing? Or are you just using Envision as a generic term for a planning group?
I've got an idea.
Yes, sir.
Envision did the master plan for the city of Aurora. Could we reach out to the city of Aurora, whether it's council or the mayor's office, and see how effective it was, what they liked, what they didn't like?
I can answer that question for you already.
Okay.
I reached out to Pickerington, Ohio. I tried to get hold of somebody from Madeira, Ohio, because that was two of their big things that they brought up. I spoke to Greg, who is the city manager for Pickerington, and he said first of all, he couldn't say enough good about the division. He said they were tremendous. Even if they had to readjust the plan, it was no big deal to them. They just worked with it and followed through. Now, if you've never been to Pickerington, strangely, I have, because my middle stepson just moved there. And it's a beautiful community. I mean, it's huge. Although I found it funny because their hospital is in the middle of a cornfield. That just kind of cracked me up. So,
Easy to land out.
and they're expanding their hospital too.
There's
So
certain times of the year.
he couldn't say enough good about the division, and he brought up about Madeira, Ohio. He said he was very intimately knowledgeable about their project with the division. He said they did great, but I could not get a hold of anybody in Madeira to co-sign them.
So I guess do we talk to them again and see if we can do it in bite-sized chunks? Like, for example, what is it that you can do for us? Like, we don't know enough to even know yet. Maybe we could say, well, can you read through this and give us a price to give us recommendations on what to do next? Or something. I mean, do we use them as a leverage to give us more information?
Or
do
to
we
find
ask,
through what we're doing.
right, or do we ask a city and say, if you have only limited funds, where do you put it? What do you do?
I'm sure I could call Greg back and pick them.
And say, listen, we want to walk softly. We don't want to just open the floodgates. We want to get our toe in there. We want to crack the door open, and we want to see how this works.
Gotcha.
You see, I'm wondering if that would be the approach.
Well, I could call, and it's Ryan Smalley, and say, look, here's what we've got together. Now,
Excuse me, Mayor, who is Ron Smalley?
Ryan Smalley is the contact,
Okay.
and he came in with his partner.
Yeah.
I can say, okay, here's what we have. You know, the idea of a free consultation, I don't know if that's gonna fly.
Even if he
It
charges
might.
us for that.
It might. One thing, at least in my mind, you know, we're gonna do 2023 appropriations very soon. You know, with that in mind, you know, how does this fall in the priority of fixing the park, doing this, maybe adding another full-time firefighter, you know, things like that, that we have to say, okay, this is one, this is two, this is three. Not to downplay any of this, because it's great, but when it comes to allocating funds, you know, something to think about, because the park is gonna be probably a couple phases. You know, Arbor Stone, and if you say, you know, the sand idea is great. You go out, get a grant for a pier, you know, things like that. It's still, even the grant is not, you know, if it's a 50-50 or something like that, I think here's a great idea. But something just to think about is all of you, you know, appropriate the funds.
Wait 1 second. You hold that, because Michelle could wait.
Do we, because there's the Lake County Development Council, does anybody from the city go to those meetings? Are we involved in that at all?
We
Is
just went
that
to
a
one.
resource we can tap into?
We just went to one. They had something at Mentor Beach Park, and Elaine and Janelle. It was more informational, I guess is the best way to put it, than action. And I think, you know, as far as talking about the lake and things like that, I go way back to 5-6 years ago. Because, you know this too. I mean, we've heard the same stories over and over. And now, I mean, we're at a point where we have to do something down there. If we don't, we're not gonna have it.
Like, are any local, there's so many organizations and finding the right one for the right purpose. I mean, you could join probably 10 organizations that take up more than we have hours in a day. Are there things in Lake County to where we should be joining up with them to get like power and numbers kinds of things, to get more involved with, to maybe get some more local resources and
They have a monthly mayor and managers meeting, and a lot of those meetings, the county commissioners are there. Dan Troy is there a lot, and as you all know, but I took Dan Troy down there, when we had the festival, said, hey, look, this is what's going on. What can you do for us? But I know the mayors and managers, they'll bring people in to talk about things. But, with the SID now, that was a big step, but that took 3, 4, 5 years to even get that up and running, and now we have it up and running. And all of you will have to make the decision on, we go out, get bids. Do we accept that? Do we spend, do we amortize that over 15 years? Whatever that total cost is gonna be, then that's what we have to.
Rob, you wanted to make some comments.
Yeah, so I mean, first of all, you can think of hiring the Envision Group as a cost. It definitely is. And we have a lot of costs in our city. But I look at it more as like an investment. It's how can we raise up our city to a higher level? How can we seek out grant opportunities that we may not be aware of, and they can help us with that. And we definitely don't have the staff to do that on our own. So how can we make improvements so that we attract more businesses, we attract higher quality businesses, and how can we just, in all aspects, just improve our city overall? So I think of more as an investment for the long term than a short-term cost. So
I would agree with that. I think it's a necessary investment. That's personally what I think, especially when we just approved an expenditure of what, close to $37,000 or $38,000 to CT consultants to come up with the estimate on Loma. Dave, you had a comment?
Yeah, so we're, to the point of, hey, we can join a bazillion organizations. Maybe if we purposely sought Pickering or, but at least 2 different cities who recently done a plan, we could ask them, hey, what was your process? What worked, what didn't? Who do you go join? So we don't have to trudge through that swamp. We could benefit from what they did wrong as much as what they did right. That'll give us our plan, because we're kind of saying, okay, what do we do next? They've already done that, so maybe we could just take the action to reach out to at least 2 cities. If we got 3, that would be nifty. If it was recent, that would be important. And here are the next logical steps to the issue of investment that would help us focus in on when do we need a group, Envision or other, to step in. Part of this process that we have now a clue as to how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Try to recap some of this stuff. One is, I personally think, Dave, I don't have a problem reaching out to Pickering, and I enjoyed talking to that gentleman. He was good. And find out from him who kind of contacted the Dura. Because some of it's finding the right person to talk to, or other city administrations or city councils. Sometimes, like when I was reaching out to companies or cities about the Hannah Group, they all sat there and said, we didn't do anything with them. And then when I talked to Tom Gillespie, I think his name was, he said, well, that information was 18, 20 years old. And he forwarded some more current letters of recommendation, which I forwarded to all the council. Okay. So what I think I would like to do is suggest a group. is, as a group, we get back together again in the near future. See if we can get some of the businesses involved. I will also reach out to Pickerington and to Madera, and possibly a third city. If I can get
There was a third city.
What's that?
There was a third
Aurora.
city.
Aurora. I can reach out to them as well. And go from there. What's the committee think?
Yeah.
Good.
And I would agree. I would like to see, like what Dave said too, what did they start out with when they went out to Envision or
Sure.
other? You know, what did you start out with? What documentation did you start with? What did you provide them? What did they come back and make the suggestions on? I
Okay.
think that is, you know, a really good
I
start.
agree.
Dave?
I agree. We need to find out. Like he said back there, let's not trip over ourselves, let's find out what the others did.
Ron, your thoughts?
Mhm.
Kevin? Good. Michelle? Bruce, Mayor, what do you think?
Oh, good. And if you want me to contact, Ryan at Envision, I can get some information from him if you'd like, or just kind of feel him out for maybe another meeting here with us.
I was gonna ask him, do you think he'd show up at another meeting with the Community Development Committee?
I'll ask.
And see what he says with that.
Right.
Maybe with the businesses, like everybody was saying, some of the businesses being here too.
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to strive for. I don't like spinning my wheels.
I just wanted to say, when Mayor and Michelle were talking about the second meeting being a complaining session, I've been reaching out to businesses here and there, and, a lot of them have been here a while and have history. And so they're like, oh, well, I wanted to do this and council wouldn't let me, or I wanted to do that. So, and I think that's what perhaps came about in your second session, whenever that was. People have history, or they've tried to do things, and maybe there's codes or zoning. So I think however the businesses are approached, it's important to say, we're looking at something and trying to create on a clean canvas, on a blank canvas, what we want this city to look like, how we want it to operate, so that you sort of eliminate those barriers to them participating, because you can tell them this is all part of a big plan, and if these things make sense to change, then that's something that everybody would be considering. But I think some of them sort of have sour grapes.
Oh, I'm sure there's some.
And so I think that would be helpful. There's some new businesses, they'll have a different attitude, but the ones that have been here a while will probably have a little bit of, forget it, or why they don't listen to me when I say this, or, that type of thing. So I think that would be important. And I don't think that Envision would be 50,000, but I am curious, just from an appropriation standpoint, what is that deadline that we're working with for have a line item that you'd have to review and approve for budgeting purposes? Is that a month from now, 2 months from now?
Council would have to have it by the end of March.
Oh, okay.
We got a little bit of time. So,
And then the last question, did you say $27,000 just to be able to go get the bids from Lobo? Did I do that?
did we spend, we approved an expenditure, I think 37,000, I could be wrong,
To do what?
to CT Consultants to come up with the estimate on what it would cost to do the investment down to the beach park.
Okay.
I wish I were.
Is that for real?
I'm not aware of that number.
I'd have to look it up again.
We had to do some variance of some, like, it was a more comprehensive thing.
So just as a quick summary, I think basically what we're looking at is a three-pronged approach. Approach number one is contacting other cities that have been through the process, so we eliminate redundancy of what we need to do and how we make this work. Second point is involve the businesses. Mr. Shaboo's comment about having something to draft to the businesses, I think is a good concept. Obviously, we can present them with what the plan is, but I think something else that businesses would respect would be a timeline of what has already been, what we've already done. And that is to kind of go through and state what meetings have already occurred, that we talked to Hannah on this date. We talked to Envision on this date. We've had community planning division meetings with involving the community members and council and the mayor on these dates, to actually show them that this is not we've got this great idea and we'd like to start this. No, this has been ongoing for 6 months already, and lay out, boom, 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 each date, each meeting that has occurred, and put that in a letter format that goes to them along with the plan that says, this is what's been accomplished. This is where we want to go. next step is we need you. We need the businesses here because you are instrumental to this community. And then the third problem is the community. And as you said, it has been difficult, but it's still worthwhile reaching out to everyone again. And those that are truly committed and truly interested will come. And those that are kind of like, I live here, do what you will, then that's okay too. You know, they're still gonna benefit hopefully from all of this, and we'll take whatever input we can from you. But I think that's how I would sort of present as a three-pronged approach. And I think that might be a way to draft it to the businesses with a timeline of construction.
Most people respond to things when they think it's gonna affect them in one way or another.
Hopefully, in a
Whether good
positive
or bad, and so whatever message we send to business or to other people, it has to have an impact. They gotta be like, listen, you will be affected. One way or another, your participation is essential so that when you're affected, it's in the right way. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like, because if they feel like it's not gonna do anything in their world, they're not gonna care.
Right.
I think one thing Envision Group had included in their package was almost like surveys or something. You know, like if we can't get the people to be here in person, they would help us craft sort of, here's what's being considered, here's some options. And it gets out into the community a different way. If we can't get them here, you know, we find ways to, you know, send surveys or something to the community and let them give some feedback that way. I think I recall hearing something about that. The other thing I was just wondering is if we shouldn't just give Howard Hanna Group the courtesy of letting them know they're really not in the running. It seems
Well,
they're not in the conversation.
council's got to make that decision.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I'm
But I have-
suggesting.
Tom Gillespie has called me twice now. to
Right.
Find out where council stands, and I keep telling them, we haven't made a firm decision yet.
But I think it's clear you guys aren't, you don't think they're a match for what is being discussed. But, I mean, it's no skin off their teeth right now, wait, they're just gonna keep calling, but it seems no one's interested in that particular option.
So I think the next meeting should include as many businesses as we can. All of you folks, if you will. Mr. Smalley, if you can. And, see where we're at, and I'll get a hold of 3 cities if I can. Go from there. Does that sound agreeable to everyone?
Did you want to set a tentative date?
Yes, I do. Because we're coming up to massive holiday time. To the committee, I suggest, what dates are best for you? Deb, you're more restrictive. Well, sometimes my counterpart over here is kind of tied up with all of these other groups.
Well, next Monday is city council. How much time do you think you're gonna need?
I would guess, I try to judge about an hour, hour and a half.
No, to get a hold of all these
To
other
get a hold of.
cities.
I would put it
all
at
the
least 2
documents.
weeks out, so the week of the 14th, maybe people.
So let's look at
What's good for you?
we'll look at the calendar, see when the room's booked first.
Oh, you're looking at that? That was headed there. Be my guess.
You need to find out.
So it is already reserved on the 14th. The 15th is open.
How's your schedule for the 15th?
As long as it's like a 6 o'clock meeting or later, I should be fine.
We could do 6 o'clock. I don't know how that's gonna work with the businesses, but.
Yeah.
I
I mean, unless you want to do, I mean, again, this is just tentative until, you know what I mean, until we make an official announcement at the council meeting.
Right.
You know, if you want to reach out to some businesses to see what they would might prefer, you know, 6 or 6:30, whatever we can get the most bang for our buck with the businesses.
I want to pause this for a second. Mayor, when you did your business meetings, did you try to do it in the evening or just?
No, we did.
I know they were in the
3 in the
afternoon.
afternoon.
Okay.
But we sent a letter out, probably, like I said, a month or
Yeah,
6 weeks ahead of time.
okay,
And not that they would respond, you know, like 2 weeks away.
right.
We have a list, yeah, we have that.
Do you know if it includes emails?
I'd have to look, probably does.
If it does emails, then I can send an invite out through email.
I'll check. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we're talking at Tuesday, then, the 15th.
Yes.
15th, yes.
Are you set?
I'll just be this.
Okay.
The others will have to deal without me. Whatever they need, I'll give it to them.
Unless you want to do it on the 16th, is the 16th Wednesday better? Is a Wednesday better?
Wednesday's fine.
Okay,
Your call.
I'm good with Wednesday, same time.
So we're gonna do 16. Okay. Group, what about you think? What's your thoughts?
What time is that?
6 P.M.
Where's this at?
Six is.
Right here.
Fifteenth at 6 P.M.
The 6th, yeah, the
16th.
15th, the 16th.
The 16th of November.
November, yes,
At 6 P.M.
yes. Is that good with everybody?
I'm not gonna be able to make it, but I'll get somebody here.
Would the
I gotta
15th be
be-
better for you?
I gotta be in Florida. I'm not here that.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. I have no sympathy for you, sir. Dave, what about you?
You might be going down
You'll be
there
on the
using up this house.
I'm on the call, so I don't know. So I'll
Okay.
just try to be here.
Scott?
It should work. I can make it work.
Okay. Susan?
I think so.
Okay, Mayor?
Yeah, that's fine. My question would be, how many businesses would you want there?
As many as we can get in, because
Yeah,
here's what I look at, Mayor. You can spread that, cast the net, get 20, you might get 5.
I would focus on our locally owned businesses and maybe not so much the big corporate
Right,
businesses
gotcha.
where you need a manager. Or.
makes sense, yes.
Yeah.
I would concur with
I would
that.
be looking.
All right.
for
Mark's probably
actual-
isn't gonna send it like
Yeah.
that.
All right, thanks.
I don't want your manager who
Intelligence
can't make a
That's what
decision.
I'm saying.
Right.
That's no
The new
problem.
Biggie's owner.
Yes.
Or they send
Yeah.
corporate,
You got
and
plenty.
corporate doesn't
They
relay the
care
information
less.
back.
Actually, Biggie's an all.
Two of them was really gonna affect.
Yes,
So she
How they
said
do
back to corporate.
we're gonna get better feedback
Right,
from
I'm trying to
businesses that are.
I agree. That affects their personal.
Yes.
Our
Jeff?
point of, I guess, process, you're gonna write a letter to the businesses or who's
Well,
gonna do the letter?
it's too soon to write a letter.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
Good thing that-
contact them.
So I'll offer to do legwork if you want. I'll be happy to go forward. Who's gonna write up the shortened document?
I can write it up.
It was Dave's idea. Make it go to work. Dave,
Dave.
when are you gonna have?
Dave, Golden tongues, no.
Sorry, that was an easy target.
I'm not very good about writing.
I write books.
I don't, I read it.
We can help y'all. If
Okay.
you're working on something, then we can help.
I'll tell you what, I'll do a draft. You're gonna check on the businesses, right, Mayor?
Right.
I'll send the draft out to all of you. Tell me what you think.
We can knock
And
on
all of you.
doors. I mean,
Okay?
I-
Yeah, you haven't said much over there. You think you're gonna skate on this deal? What's your thought? Can we get Bremix? to come? That's
We're
okay.
gonna open up. I'm open.
Get them to open a new one.
I remember the first fall festival, we did business to business festival.
Okay. So we have a game plan. We have a tentative kind of meeting set up. It will be announced. It will become official on Monday night. Okay? Anything else? I think we've done some good stuff here today. It's my feeling. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to adjourn this meeting at, watch it, 7:58.